Just dropped off Lucy. She was in one of her weird moods. I don't know. Maybe it's I'm getting old, but sometimes I think her parents got her a little screwed up, like just socially zoned out, but that could just be a kid thing. Anyway, she'd make this face like this. Not having a good morning. So, I usually say when she gets out, all right, have a good day, blah, blah, blah. Today I said, don't do drugs. She just looked at me, went walking away. She doesn't know what sarcasm is. My kids were a little different, they picked up on the whole sarcasm thing fairly early in life. There's some kids that are like, but anyway, it reminded me of something. I was a little older than her though. First time I took acid. This is so stupid, but I was a dumb kid. You know what I mean? It's not like I did it on purpose. Or maybe I kind of did. Maybe I was just curious. Well, I was staying with my grandmother at the time. And I want to say it's like 5th grade, maybe 6th grade. Can't really remember. And I'm heading to Walmart now, by the way. Taking a long route. I was in my grandmother's neighborhood, and I used to take the bus, or I would ride my bike depending on what I felt like doing at the time. And it wasn't close. When I used to go to elementary school, it was by our house, which was, I don't know, about 3 or 4 miles away from my grandmother's neighborhood. But my grandmother's neighborhood was hood. You would consider it one of the, it's not about a good side of town or bad side of town. It was a pocket of hood. You know what I'm saying? Like it was surrounded by a relatively nice neighborhood, but that little pocket, that little double cul-de-sac neighborhood of hers, it was pretty hood. Like it was low income. It was a bunch of little, little hood rats running around, and riffraff and whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, I had friends, that were, considered, ghetto or whatever you want to call it. I didn't think I was, but, I didn't look down on them back then. It was just kind of like, it's life. These are the people I hang out with, when I come to my grandmother's house. So, but there were some assholes there that, I remember getting bullied as a kid by some, older kids, and they loved to fuck with us and experiment on us and everything else and make us fight and all those things. Well, there was this one guy, we'll call him Robert. One day he came up to a friend of mine and I, as we were going to school, and we hadn't left the neighborhood yet. We just kind of started out. Anyway, he goes, hey, try out these candies. And I don't know if you remember, some of you that are Generation X, I don't think they have them anymore, but they were little pieces of candy on like wax paper, and the paper was wrapped up in like tight, like rolls. And then you would undo them, and you just eat the candy off the wax paper. Every inch or so, there'd be like a drop of this candy. And I can't remember what they were called, but I remember having them before. Anyway, Robert had broken off like, I don't know, 5 or 6. Tore the wax paper and gave me a strip. And he actually offered something to my friend. My friend said no. Anyway, so he had said something, you want to get high or something like that. Try this out. I'll have you feeling good. Anyway, so I tried one. I was like, I don't taste anything. Anyway, just sucked on it for a little while. We were walking through the neighborhoods, and I wasn't feeling anything, so I just started eating those candies, like one or after another, and I wasn't like hogging it up. I was just having one, sucking on it, move on to the next, and then when I was done with that sheet of paper, I just threw it on the ground like a little fucking asshole. And yeah, so it's a little fuzzy, but I remember getting to class, and then the next thing I know, the only thing I can explain it is because it was like a bad dream. I remember like these classrooms had like old wood panel, you know, I don't know, like walls, like they were made out of like particle wood or something. They were kind of shiny. Well, anyway, it was like the room was melting. And I felt like these wooden walls were gonna like fall on top of me, and I would drown in this liquid wooden wall. And I was trying to climb up the wall. Does that make sense? And I remember crying and screaming, and I was like looking around, and all the kids' faces, they were all looking at me. Some were laughing, some were like what the fuck's going on? But I remember them being all distorted. Like, and there was this one girl, she was one of the girls I had a crush on when I was a kid. I remember her head kind of expanding this way and like throbbing. It's really hard to explain. Anyway, next thing I know, the janitor, I can't remember his name. I want to say his name was Larry. Could be wrong, but he was an older kind of Mexican guy, and you know, he was kind of like those X50 greasers. His hair was all like oiled back, and he had the sideburns and stuff, and he would roll up his white t-shirt. And good guy. I mean, he wasn't like, there was nothing wrong. But I remember him, he knew me. Like, he used to like, you know, give me like a quarter or something if I helped him in the morning, you know, take a trash can out or something. You know, I always asked him, hey, you need help? And he would just, you know, throw me a bone here. But I knew him, and he was always good to me. Anyway, I remember freaking out, and the teacher was panicking, calling the office. Anyway, the janitor had come in, and he grabbed me, and he kind of sat back on the floor, kind of straddling me, like, or holding me like this, like trying to keep me from, I'm waiting to get on the freeway here. Excuse me. So he was sitting with his back against the wall, and he held me, he was holding me like this and saying, JP, it's okay, you're gonna be okay. I remember him saying that over and over. It's kind of the sound, it was kind of like everything was like amplified, and there was echoing. It was a really bizarre experience. Anyway, next thing I know, I wake up, I'm in the hospital bed, my grandmother's there, and she is fucking pissed. And I told them what had happened. I didn't tell them who, I just said some boy, because I was no snitch. But they wanted to know, like, what the fuck did I take? And I went through my morning, and I told them. So anyway, I took acid, LSD, whatever you want to call it. I didn't find that out until later. My mom was on vacation in Mexico or some shit. She was dating somebody down there. And, man, my grandma was pissed, man. She wanted to whoop my ass, but I think it was I don't know if it was a caseworker or it was somebody from the county, but it wasn't a cop that was talking to me. I remember there was a cop that did talk to me, and I wasn't making much sense, but there was some kind of social worker or something asking me questions about, you know, and do you take this regularly? asking me all sorts of questions. Like I was like a frequent, I was frequent to this sort of thing. It was a one-time thing, And so basically I was given candy with LSD or some kind of psychotic on it, and psychedelic, whatever you want to call it. And I remember, I do remember throwing up a lot. One of the times I had woken up in that hospital bed, I was doing a lot of vomiting, and it was pretty much a blur. And I remember going home, going right to sleep. And I think it was like on a Thursday or Friday, so I didn't have school the next day. I remember that. But then I just remember like having like cold flashes and hot flashes. Like I was pretty fucked up for a couple days. And then, certain people would check on me. There were some other people that talked to me. I'm assuming they were like detectives. I didn't know if they were cops. I didn't know what they were. But, a lot of people were asking me, like different people I didn't know were asking me questions. And it was like a blur. Like everything was just such a blur. It was like I had dreamt everything. But no, I didn't, because, my grandma would bring it up, she would tell me, I don't want you to become a druggie, blah, blah, blah. Anyway. So that was my experience, my first time taking any kind of drug. And it wasn't even on purpose. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Anyway, on the way back from Walmart, I'll tell you what I got into in junior high, just like a year or two later. And that was just stupid. But I'll get back to you on. All right. Bye.